You're listening to the Slow Ride Podcast. Bikes, advice, and rumors straight from the source. TheSlowRidePodcast.com and on Twitter at TheSlowRidePod. Enjoy the ride.
Hello and welcome to the 79th episode of the Slow Ride Podcast. It's a big day for our listeners, all 10 of them in Toronto, as they vote in the Canadian election. And I'm sure they have voted for me, even though I live in Orlando, Florida, because I'm leading the Slow Ride Podcast to the promised land.
Yeah? What's your platform?
My platform is Zero Podium bikes.
Mm-hmm.
It is...
Good.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Are you running with or without Fat Bike Radio on your ticket?
Oh, I might need Fat Bike Radio on my ticket to conquer the Nunavut riding, and also the British Columbia clientele. Yeah, I don't think I have what it takes to be a Canadian politician, but I am excited for tonight's episode, guys. There's lots to talk about, and first and foremost is Japan Cup. Okay, I'm just kidding.
The seventh classic of the year, right?
First and foremost, who are you?
Yeah, I know. I'm Tim Hayes, and I'm happy to be here. Who are you, little guy?
I'm Matt.
Nailing the intro like usual. This is Spencer Howe in Boston, Massachusetts.
Guys, 79 episodes in.
Yeah. That's all right. That was pretty smooth, I thought.
I woke up this morning, little guy, and it was colder here than it was in Minneapolis, and I think that should not be a thing that happens in science.
It was happens in science. It was really hot here today. It was in the high 70s or some shit. But didn't it snow in New York last night or sometime recently?
I don't know. We don't care about what happens in New York.
Well, I heard Syracuse got snow. That's what I heard a little bit earlier today.
Yeah, well, that's Syracuse. Hey, did I ever tell you that Sarah got accepted to Syracuse University, and we wisened up and chose University of Florida to move our family?
Yeah,
and that
was a good decision. I know. We almost moved. We talked about moving to Rochester, New York, at one point, and so same area. Would have been weird.
Well, guys,
anyway.
Lots to talk about. I know you want to talk about it, little guy. I know the Japan Cup is your favorite event of the year.
Oh, it's definitely my favorite. I've never watched it or really read anything about it. But somebody beat Malema won, right? Malema beat Diego, right?
Czech Factory Racing takes the victory in front of Diego Ulisi of Lamprey.
That is exciting. I'm liking that Bach Malema is. I mean, he's kind of a cut rate GC contender. I think we could all agree. He's your solid 6th or 7th in a Grand Tour, and it's not exciting, but he's turning into a good one-day rider. Like, he's had some good rides in San Sebastian. He had some good rides in Canada, and
still hasn't won the hat yet, though.
Well, he hasn't won the hat, but like, he seems like a kind of rider that earlier in his career just didn't seem like he would just be like a slow plodding Zubeldia-esque rider. But he's actually becoming a good one-day rider, and it's exciting. I hope he goes more that route than trying to do this GC stuff, because it's just not exciting.
I feel like he's just another guy in a long line of riders that should be really good week-long stage race riders, like Paris-Nice and Tour Poland and all these things, and gets pushed into these Grand Tour aspirations, and it's just he's never going to win. He's not that type of rider.
Especially if he's always focusing on the tour. I mean,
is it a value?
Really?
I mean, so at what point does a value of like a top 10, top 15 Grand Tour rider overtake a guy that can go in and win like a San Sebastian or a Japan Cup?
I don't think ever.
Ever
for those two
Japan
races.
Cup's on the radar.
Japan Cup should be on the radar. It's amazing.
Oh.
I think
it's a
Tour de
fine
Suisse,
race, I'm sure.
Some of these other races, maybe. But
Yeah, I don't know. I think still at the end of the day, a high placing in a Grand Tour is worth a lot more. You know,
All right. Well,
fortunately,
Should it be?
well, no, but it's consistent long term exposure, right? I mean, even 3 weeks of Zubeldine, if people are watching the race, they see more of the jersey and your rider than they do in, somebody pulling off a third place in San Sebastian.
well,
I don't remember seeing Zubeldia's jersey at all during the tour, but that's
No
just
one has
me.
ever.
no, it was the Volta.
No one saw him till the Volta. Yeah,
Hey,
that was the first time anyone had ever seen him.
You guys need to ease up on Zubeldia.
That
All
might-
right, he may not be my favorite rider, but man, he's definitely in the top 15. And
No,
I take it a little.
I like him.
All right, so let's go to the
Been
big
slipping
race.
steadily since 2004.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll get
Yeah.
to that later. But guys, the race I actually woke up for on Sunday. Saturday, I did a nice bike ride. Sunday, I had some stuff to do around the house. I was like, you know what? I am gonna go back and listen to like our second or third episode where we talk about how to watch cyclocross racing online,
Mhm.
and I pointed the old app to a Kenyan-based IP address, and I on my Hala app, and I found myself watching the Valkenburg Cyclocross World Cup.
Good
And
work.
I caught the tail end where my girl Eva Lechner takes the win in the women's field. Fantastic race. As you know, she was a VIP at the front of the list for the Louisville Foam Party. And then in the men's race, Lars van der Haar won for the third straight year at Valkenburg. He owned the ruts. The nastiness of that course is well known. The off-camber is ridiculous, and I gotta say, he put on a clinic. But Sven Nys had some old men power and proved to be, once again, near the top of the game.
Yeah.
Did you
I
guys
only
even
watched
watch
the
it?
highlights. I watched the highlights.
All right,
Was
well,
I didn't even
'cause
watch
I
the
didn't-
highlights.
well,
I
Wout
had to
van
go
Aert got
work.
second. Sven Nys got third. The big story for us Americans, of course, is that Caitlin Antonou did get second, just 10 seconds behind
Yeah.
Oh,
Lechner.
You would never know that reading Vela News or any of these other websites.
I
I-
disagree. I thought they had a pretty
I learned
big.
it by reading cycling news.
I thought they had a pretty big. The Twitter storm was going pretty crazy. I thought Vela News and Cycling did a pretty good. And Cycling News did a good job of telling the story of Caitlin Antonou's victory. I mean, obviously, it's not. Second place. It's not as big of news as maybe when Katie Compton's gotten all those seconds or even victories in World Cups. But man, huge result for American cycling.
Yeah, it was a good result. Did you now? Speaking of American cycling, I didn't watch the whole race. I just watched the 10 minutes of highlights or whatever. But what the hell happened to Powers?
He had a sweet front row starting position, and after turn 2, he was maybe 10th place, and then after a quarter of the lap, they didn't he wasn't even in the top 15 as I was counting.
Was it just Was it just the situation of there's mud and Powers can't ride in mud? Because it looked like kind of a slippery, muddy race. I don't know. I just thought he would do better than that. He was 45th. I could have gotten 45th there.
No,
I don't know,
you
guys.
couldn't. I think you maybe get 46th, 47th, but
Oh,
I mean,
come on. No
I do
faith.
think that and I mean this wholeheartedly, I just don't think that he's racing against the top level competition in the US, so we see him winning against decent guys, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole nother level. I mean, that front group, was 7, 8 strong before the attack started to kind of whittle it down, and he just wasn't there. I like to think it's more because of the mud and the off camber. Maybe he'll do well in Rome, but it was a little disappointing because I know how badly he wants it.
Yeah, I was thinking he'd have a better result, being how dominant. I mean, I know the level's different in the U.S., obviously, because he was racing against me. But
he can ride against those guys. I mean, if Vegas showed anything, he was right up there.
But that was
he's
on his
been up
home
there.
turf. That was his race. You know what I mean? It feels like when he gets over there to the real Euro races, I don't know. This is
Well, I think
disappointing.
I think well, it's definitely disappointing, but I think that there's like a lot of viable excuses too, right? Like there, like
well,
the fact that
a
he's
lot of
flying
viable
there
excuses too for my race performance. I mean, it's also a lot of bullshit to be like. Obviously, like we're sitting here talking about the results of one person on one day, and obviously he's like the hope of America in those men's races, and so we put a lot of weight on his shoulders. That's probably unnecessary for the most part.
Right. And everybody's allowed to have a bad day. Like.
Well, not Jeremy Powers.
I guess.
I know you guys did some cyclocross racing this weekend. Little guy in particular in Minnesota. Of course, the big U.S. race was out in Colorado at the U.S. Open cyclocross, and that's Jamie Driscoll, and Danny Summerhill go 1-2, vice versa on both days. And then it was Carolyn Manny and Georgia Gould in the women's. And, I was looking at some of the videos that people were posting on Twitter and Instagram. It didn't seem like there's a lot of people there. And once again, it comes down to the lack of a national series. I think it's really hurting cyclocross in this country. And it'd be nice to see something really step up and make it worthwhile to go to these races and to view them. We need USGP back.
I've got a good USGP story if you want to hear it.
Sure.
It's sort of USGP related, kind of a little bit. In that I went to the race on Saturday here locally to Green Acres. Got there, pre-rode a little bit, noticed my headset was loose. Surprise, surprise. Went to tighten it, like tried to crank it on the top cap. The bolt just cranked right through and broke my top cap apart. So I could get out. I only had like 40 minutes to warm up. I look up. Who do I see? But Dan from Omnium Cycles pull up in a truck like 2 spots away from me. And I'm like, if anybody here has an extra stem cap, it's Dan. So I go over, and he wasn't even there to race, wasn't even there to run neutral support, but he was nice enough.
He was there to help you.
He was just there to help me and to spectate while holding his child in his hands. I'm there bugging him if he has an extra stem cap, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know," and I don't even know how he didn't think he had it. He like opens the back of his truck, and it's just full of like toolboxes full of small parts, like everything you could ever want. Like he's like, "Yeah, let me see." Grabs the first toolbox, and it's like full of stem caps and like cable ends and shit. And he gives me a sweet gold Exergy, who used to sponsor the USGP, stem cap that worked perfectly on my bike, tightened my headset down, and allowed me to race. So it was great.
Oh, look, that's a good story because it's a classic mechanic story, right? Like you ask someone like, hey, do you think you can fix this? I don't know. Like, I don't know if I have time. And then 2 minutes later, they've already replaced your bottom bracket and you're all ready to go.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. And then he had like a whole pile of them. And then he gave me a sweet Exergy one. So I've got a sweet gold Exergy. It's got little windmills on it.
Oh, Exergy. Man, I totally forgot about Exergy. That was like one hell of a Ponzi scheme, huh? Remember that? They came in heavy for cycling sponsorship.
It was kind of they made some poor decisions. It also probably didn't help them that
I gotta look them up. What happened to them?
What is I think it's the fact that what is a barrel of oil cost these days? It probably costs like $30. But weren't they like it used to cost $100.
Wasn't Exergy like the windmill company though?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're saying. You're saying
very affected by the price of oil. Yeah.
Man, they spent a lot of money on cycling because, like, weren't they going to sponsor like a team, and then that team went away? They were USGP title sponsor for like half a season.
Yeah, they sponsored.
They
for
may
more
not
than
have ever
season.
paid that.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think they ever paid. I think they were kind of rocking that like the way our sponsors work sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, we got you. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Checks in the mail.
Well, totally.
Man. Oh, yeah.
Go any day now. Just come back tomorrow.
Oh, guys, I forgot. They had Fred Rodriguez on their team.
Check my check log here. Let me just call accounting. We'll get back to you next week about that. I'm sure.
Now, they had a team start in 2009 as a Continental Pro. 2011 and 12, they started doing some big races. They brought on Fred Rodriguez. And then in 2012, in November, they dropped sponsorship of cycling for 2013, citing doping scandals.
Yeah,
now
that's an easy way to get out of it.
Yeah, that's an easy way out. Oh my gosh. Oh man, what a
It's their-
great
Can you-
team.
Now, Tim, I want you to pull that up in one window, and then also mirror their stock price in the other window, and see where the correlation is between that, because it probably kind of goes together really well. You can probably see the stock price fall, and then see the money come out of cycling immediately.
Just a dip.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, that's some good memories. But again, Saved by the Bell. And little guy, how did you do at Green Acres Cyclocross race? Probably the biggest cyclocross race in Minnesota.
It is a good race. The course was really fun this year. I got 7th, which I was all right with. There was some fast out of town dudes. Isaac Neff was in town. Fast dude from, I don't know where he lives, somewhere localish. Mark Savory, 9,000 time 35 plus national world champion man was there racing too. So it was a good field. I was all right with 7th. I made a couple mistakes. I rolled the tubular, which I was in the hunt for 6th, but I rolled the tubular.
7th is pretty good, little guy. And you know what? Potentially next year that could be on the podium.
When they really widen those podiums to 7 deep.
I mean, rumor has it they were being discussed. 8-person deep podiums.
Why? For who? USA Cycling was saying this? Because that's see right there. That's a transition into why this new NACS or whatever organization is the way to go and get rid of USA Cycling. They should I want my accreditation organization or whoever who lets you the insurance for your events. I want a cheaper entry price. I want a more
Wait, little guy. I'm writing this down for my platform. Just a second. Okay, go ahead.
I want a cheaper entry price. I want just a more inclusive feel for racing. Something to bring in more new racers, and I want only a 3 deep podium. So I want a lower bar of entry to get in and do the race, but I do not want USA Cycling. It seems like they're because they're charging people so much money, they feel like they have to widen the podium so that people enjoy themselves there, feel included. You show up, you get ripped off, your race gets cut short because you get lapped 9 times, and then they're like, hey, but it's okay, you still made the podium, and you're like, oh, that's awesome, I made the podium, I love this. Or you could show up, do your whole race,
you made the
get
35 to 39.
Yeah.
You won the Fat Bike National Championship 70 plus field. Well,
especially Minnesota, so in Minnesota, because we do the 35 plus and the 1-2s at the same time, and then whenever people are like, oh, you got 7th, but some of those guys might have been 35 plus. It's but it starts turning into a mountain bike race where you're like, well, I was 3rd in guys with blue socks today, and I was 7th in all the people in the race. But if those 2 guys did 35 plus, then I was 5th.
Hi, this is Tim Hayes of the Slow Ride Podcast Party, and I'm here to win your vote. Are you tired of podium bikes, extra wide podiums, and high entry fees? Because we are here to give you an alternative. That alternative is grassroots excitement, 3 deep podiums, low entry fees, and above all, podium buckets.
Yes.
Vote for us,
guys.
The Slow Ride Podcast Party.
Can I tell you something
Your
great?
results might not be fast or accurate, but I can guarantee you won't be on the podium.
Hey, I remember doing a race. I remember doing a race back in the day. It was before I went to go see the that breaking away race, the Little 500 down in Indiana. And I remember in the field sprint, and we all had to report back to the finish line guy because it was him and his wife that ran the race. We all had to report back to him and then say who the guy was that beat us. So basically, everyone had to report oh, well, that guy was 2 in front of me and I was next to him, so then it must have been me, and then that guy was behind, and it worked clockwork. There was maybe a couple discrepancies on well, I don't know if you got me or I got you, but it was for 14th place, so why don't you take it? You know what I mean? And it was very simple, and they had results super fast. The results were handwritten. It was done. Next race. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's the future.
I like it.
Now, little guy, you're talking about this new North American cycling thing.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm all about USA Cycling right now. This new president, I'm going to give him an old shake in the hand and see how he's going to run, because he's running some pretty cool things that finally we're out of the ownership and the leadership of the the previous leader, Steve Johnson. Now we have a zero tolerance stand on doping, and coaches that have been affiliated with doping are going to be getting out of the sport. I'm very excited. I think there's some good things happening.
Yeah, with USA, but yeah, there is good things happening. But I don't know. USA Cycling it doesn't make sense. They're not doing anything to really bring new people into the sport. I mean, just look at how much gravel racing. Just look at how much people are doing alley cats. And
do you want them to take over gravel racing? Like, I guess here's the thing:
the thing is, I want races not to be like $35 fucking to do a local race. Like, it's completely ridiculous.
So, like, I've had a lot of frustration with this because the cross races here in Florida. Not that I was going to do them anyway this season. I mean, I might do 3 or 4, but I'm only going to the ones that make sense. Cat 3 cyclocross race here in Florida with maybe 5 to 10 other people is $35 if you pre-reg and $40 if you show up day of. And I gotta admit, that's a lot of money to go race with like 5, 10 other people. Like, maybe I can expect that at a USGP because I'm more than willing to pay for UCI inscription and all that. But man, that much money for a cyclocross race here in Florida, that's a lot. And it's just not worth it.
That's a Cat 3 race, right? So that's 45 minutes?
Yeah. $1 a minute.
You're paying almost $1 a minute? That's completely nuts. And I understand that promoters have to charge a certain amount to make money, but to like just break even, but part of that comes back to US. Well, yeah, you've said that in the past when we've had this conversation about races. Like, there's a certain amount you have to charge depending on what your venue is. Like, USA Cycling has a really high, expensive bar for everything.
No, I guess what I'm saying is, what I disagree is that I think promoters are getting into this to make money, and it's like that's just where it's a non-starter unless it's like a really big event. I don't mind making a little bit of money. I mean, I'm promoting a race with some friends here. Christian, you guys know him, and Graham from Crosscopter, and a few others. We're going to put on the Halloween race here in Central Florida. Cat 4, $20. Cat 3, Cat 1, 2, $25. Single speed race, $15. Second race on the day, $10. I think that's a very affordable price because, especially when you take into account that if you're a brand new rider without a license, you have to pay $15 now for one day. Which
that's bullshit.
Well, but I mean, I don't know the mechanics behind that. But what the problem is, to me, is when you get these local associations that require you to now have 2 officials or all this ridiculousness. And it's like, at the end of the day, if the racers know what to expect, like you do the old under promise, over deliver, then it can solve a lot of problems. Because remember, we used to have that $10 mountain bike race in Gainesville, and it worked great. It was USA Cycling sanctioned. We made a little bit of money on the side, but not one racer went to that race expecting the world. But then when they got their results within 15 minutes, they were like, oh, sweet. Now, near the end, it got a little annoying because they all wanted their results right away, and we had to set them back, a few. We're like, hey, you also only paid $10, but, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much was your rate?
I was going to say, what do you think about this new sort of spin-off organization? Because it's people that are setting it up and running it are like USA officials. So they're from the inside wanting something that's better for people starting out, I guess.
I guess
less it's the racer.
I mean, more power to them. I mean, living in Chicago for that 1 year and around, like, there's always been these alternative organizations because there's American Bike Racing, which provided a cheaper alternative, and you didn't have to go through all the headaches of a local association and all the cost overruns of hiring too many people. So I think that there's definitely a place for it. More power to them. I hope people take it up on it. I mean, I probably see there'll probably be quite a few like mountain bike series that will do it because it just makes sense. Like, rather than spending all the extra money and sending it to USA Cycling, you're paying $50 for a permit, and then whatever their insurance costs are. So you probably save a couple $100. It'd be easier to put on a smaller race. The downside, though, is that you don't get ranking points and all that. And I do feel that there's racers that care about that.
I think there are, but I think for a large portion of racers that, I don't know, that's probably not that big a deal. Not that they can't even have their own ranking points. Like, my God, you don't have to have ranking points and high prices do not go together. I mean, we can go to crossresults.com or whatever the hell he is right now. And that won't cost anything. And
I was going to say, if only there were a ranking point system that wasn't based on USA Cycling.
Yeah.
But I think that people...
USA Cycling wasn't based on, I should say.
I mean, USA Cycling is the elephant in the room, right? Because it's where you get your upgrade points. It's where, people go check for the results. I mean, I think both can exist, but I don't. I'm not willing to give up on USA Cycling yet with the new with Derek Bouchard Hall. And I think that there's going to be some good things that are happening. I feel that I'm willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. If he wants to join the Slow Ride podcast party, he can.
Yeah. Right. To be realistic, the NACS they're gonna, like Little Guy said, they're gonna scoop up some little mountain bike races, and they're gonna scoop up all these gravel, previously unsanctioned events that maybe want, like, oh geez, we're getting a couple hundred people now, maybe we should think about having some insurance because somebody's gonna sue us eventually. Like, they're gonna pick up that stuff. I don't think they're gonna get any real big races. But I think they will be a good entryway into the sport, and because USA Cycling does not cater to the new racer at all. Like, you need to be already racing and already fit and already wanting to progress up through the ranks to have it make sense to jump through all the USA Cycling hoops. And I don't think they're perfect, but I don't think they're terrible either. You know what I mean? Like, they serve a purpose, but they don't. They don't serve the beginner,
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they try to. They just try to get them into the cult, right? Like, it's like such a big stepping stone, and then once you're in, you're stuck, and it's frustrating. So, well, with that, let's take a quick break, guys, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some really good cycling excitement.
Hi, I'm Jake Wells. Listen to the Slow Ride Podcast.
All right, guys, we're back, and what an awesome time to be connected to the Slow Ride Podcast party. And as we overtake the Canadian political system, we need to take a listen to our supporters. And Spencer, what do we have this week?
Oh man, we've had a lot of Twitter interaction, but just recently we had a great question come in from Zachary Andrews. Says, at the Slow Ride Pod,
what up, Zach?
Doing my first cross race this weekend, and I could use some tips to not look like a Fred. What do you got? So I'm gonna turn that over to you guys to see what you non-Freds have. Nothing, huh? Okay.
Okay, so what not to look like a Fred? He definitely needs to be wearing bibs and a jersey. So no shorts.
What about a skin suit?
Sure. I mean, whatever.
Skin suit. Well, he specifically said he didn't want to look like a Fred. He didn't
has he raced? Has he raced at all before? Like road?
We don't know. I think if it's his first cross race, he should look like a Fred. I think I am more offended by people in the 4 or 5 race that look too pro. Why do you look so pro, but the racing doesn't look pro? Like, if you can't match up the pro look with the pro speed, why you want it to look together? Like, if you show up, you show up your first cross race on like a $5,000 Ridley with like 5 pairs of wheels. And your legs are perfectly shamed. You're rubbing the Embro on them, and your sock height is just right. Your sock game is on point.
So they look almost
too good. You get in that
good.
race, and you look really good. And then everyone's like, "Oh man, that dude's got to be fast, man. He looks really pro." And then the race starts, and you're dropped right away, and everyone's like, "What's that dude's problem?"
So
like he's obviously like. He's faking really hard.
Over the barriers
Okay.
You get found out.
I got this.
I got this right away.
Guys, we got this figured out. Little guy, you hit it off. All right, ready? Here's what it is. Show up as a Fred. The baggiest jersey you've got. The worst pair of cycling shorts possible. Grow that leg hair out. Right? Put a helmet mirror on. Maybe a visor. We want you to a rack on the bike, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get on that start line, and everyone's going to look around, and they're not going to accept you. They're just going to say, whatever. You're going to attack from the gun. You're going to clean that whole shot, and they're going to be like, whatever, he's going to fade, right? That's when you take that clunker. You go into the pit. you go into the pit and you take out your race bike. You then get on your race bike and you get a bigger start. You do an exchange.
Lap.
First lap. Guys, no. And then couple laps in, because they're not seeing you do the exchange. Like they don't know where you are. And then when the course starts backing up, you go back into the pits again. You get back on the clunker. Because the key is when you go by the team tents. When you go by the team tents, you want to be on the clunker because they're going to look at you going, who is that guy? We need him on our team. And at that point, that is when you start playing negotiation. Yes, 2 exchanges.
Half-lap exchanges.
Just on the first couple laps. Because here's the key. When you go by the team tents, little guy, think of the contracts that are going to be offered to an elite Category 5 amateur cyclocross racer. They exist. And it is something that we ourselves have done. Do you guys remember Jake Helmbrecht? The Falcon? When he was cleaning up in the Minnesota Cyclocross Series as a Cat 4 at then? We were like, we need to get that guy on our team. We did whatever we could to get that guy on our team. This is what happens if you show up as a Fred. If you show up like little guy said, you're a little too
part
smooth.
Part of that with Jake was that we'd seen him roller race and then we saw him with his shirt off, and we were like, well, we got to get that guy in the team. The abs were insane.
He's ripped.
Yeah, true.
That guy's got to be good at bike racing.
Little guy, I think your advice is fantastic. I think we solved that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good stuff.
Okay.
Hey guys, we got to.
I would actually say, work on your form over your function for sure. Like, make sure you get over the barriers. Make sure you don't trip and fall. Just practice your craft before you get out there and try and show off.
Hey,
that's your best option.
You don't need to really practice. And you know what? If you decide to get off on the drive side of the bike, that's okay too. If you get on the left side, that's okay too. But you better be off the front. And we want to know how this race goes for you. Also, if you don't want to look like a Fred, at least have drop bars on your bike.
No, man. I did my first season on mustache bars. Look at me.
Well, mustache. Yeah, okay. That's kind of a drop bar, though. Like, they do descend. Like, I'm just saying you don't want flat bars.
They're pretty flat.
You don't want to be the mountain guy.
Spencer was mad. He was mad that whole first year. Hey, I believe I probably beat you a few times with those goofy ass bars, buddy.
I know you did, and it still haunts me.
It still haunts you. Good.
All right, guys.
We're much more even then.
I built that bike, that Trek, which is like my touring bike. I built it back up, all touring built up now, with the mustache bars again as like my work bike, riding around bike. So it's back to its old my first cyclocross days of mustache bars and 27-inch wheels. It's awesome.
So we got a 5-star review on iTunes. From Dragon Verikin. Guys, it's a long one, but fun, friendly banter and cycling. I came across this podcast about a month ago, but I've loved it right from the first episode. I'm about 10 episodes from being caught up, which should happen by the end of the week.
Oh, God.
78 episodes in 4-ish weeks.
Oh, good God. Work. Guys, I have tried to do that with some other podcasts, but those were good podcasts.
At 78 episodes, and let's say 30 minutes an episode, right? That isn't even the case, but 30 minutes. That's something like a
I hope he's been riding when
listening.
this has been happening.
I hope
he's been on the trainer this whole time. He's
getting the miles in.
I hope he's been putting in the Excel spreadsheet time. Doing a couple VLOOKUPs here and there, and he's like, ha ha ha, that was a funny one. The cycling news and rumors are interesting, but my favorite thing about the podcast is the interactions between Super Rookie, Little Guy, and some guy that sounds like the Matt Jones character Badger from Breaking Bad. That must be you, Spencer. Their history together and the stories they tell create the perfect blend of friendly, funny, best friend style banter and tomfoolery. And it's great. It might not be a listen for everyone, but you should seriously go listen now. Blah, blah, blah. Don't forget to subscribe, wave at your fellow cyclists. And thanks for the great show. Caleb L.
Awesome.
Wow.
Nice.
That's a pretty good one.
There you go.
And then we got another one. Great fun, 5 stars, nowhere fast. Listening to the Slow Ride podcast is like sitting in on a conversation with your with your best cycling buddies you never had. Not your average newscast, the Slow Ride features a never dull mix of cycling news and industry happenings, along with generous helping of local bike culture and personal anecdotes from the cycling life. I would like to thank Sarah for writing that
Yeah.
review. That was very, or maybe that was another one of our friends. I don't know who that was, but that was great.
Nice.
Guys, two
That's
great
good.
reviews. We're
Yeah.
we're
I like
moving
how
up in the
everybody
world. Let's see where we are on the old charts. Not on the top
I give-
charts.
Can I give a shout out real quick to Josh Bauer and just say crappy.
Yeah, I did. He likes
Yeah.
it when you try to keep
It's good.
it clean, little guy. That's nice.
I just wanted to say it one time. I didn't think I had a real reason to say it this episode, so I wanted to make sure I just said it for him once.
That's good stuff.
We'll figure out a way. We'll get you there,
Yes.
Tim.
All right, guys, I sent you a text and you didn't text me back,
Yeah.
so it felt like a normal Monday afternoon. And as I was sitting here, I was thinking, we've been cycling fans for a while. And a lot of people ask, everyone's got a favorite cyclist. I went giddy, over seeing famous cyclists, Cadell Evans at Interbike, Ulrich, all types of people. And I thought, we should come up with a podium of our individual 3 favorite cyclists that we got the most excited about since we started watching cycling together in about 2004-ish, 2003-ish. And I was thinking that, who were the cyclists that actually made you the most excited? The career might not have been very long. The career might have been very long. It's all about just when they did something, you knew right away that, oh man, Tim is going to be excited about that guy, or Spencer's going to be so stoked when that guy did something awesome. And it can be across all disciplines, mountain bike, track, whatever. So with that, I think we should discuss our top 3 favorite cyclists. And this is not an American podium. This is just 3. This is real racing, because that is part of our platform. And I will start out that my 3rd favorite cyclist that did it for me was the Cobra, Ricardo Rico. Every time that guy raced, he would call his shot when he said he was going to attack. And I had so much fun watching that guy.
See, I was gonna put him in my list too, so I guess I'll rank him 3rd as well, because I feel the same way. He was a piece of shit, and that almost made me more excited to watch him race because I hated him and loved him at the same time.
It was yeah.
I still hate him. It was such a weird love-hate relationship. He was extremely exciting. You knew he was gonna get popped, and
everyone knew that guy was going to get popped. There was no.
He was so easy to hate, but so easy to be excited by at the same time. I mean, he was all the best things of terrible doping era.
What was it?
Wrapped up. If you're gonna dope like a total jackass, you might as well ride like a lunatic.
I mean,
instead of just tapping out a rhythm for an hour.
Everyone knew it was coming. Right? There was every single person in the cycling world knew that he was doping. I mean, that was such a flash in the pan. It was 2006 to 2008. And I'm not talking about when he came back for Vacan Soleil or whatever. I'm talking about that 2-3 year span for Sunyar Duval, right?
What about that race he won when he had a broken nose after he came back?
I mean...
Anyway, yeah.
Now, he has been suspended for 12 years, so he can come back in 2024. But I don't know. What do you think of Rico, Spencer?
Good luck. I have kind of repressed the memory of Rico, but he was, like you said, he was one of those guys that you just knew it was coming, but he was really fun to watch race his bike. He kind of had that no holds barred, always attacking style that I don't know. He brought some energy to Lance. Post Lance era, or just kind of end of Lance era, where racing kind of got, followed a formula to some extent, and
so,
he spiced it up a little bit, which I did like. So,
all right.
But he is not on my podium.
Who's your 3rd place podium? Because both little guy and
the lowest step on my podium is kind of the opposite. Yeah. So I've got Thor on the low step of my podium.
Thor?
Really?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Why?
I really did enjoy his career because I kind of like the sprinters, but I really like even better when the sprinters don't do sprintery things. And Thor got really good at that towards the end of his career, going off the front, getting in small moves, cleaning up the intermediate. He got strategic, you know what I mean? And I kind of like that. Wasn't afraid to go off the front of the tour on mountainous stages, and then he capped that off winning Worlds, and now he's starring in weird commercials for like cat food or something, and it's pretty awesome.
Really?
It's living the dream. Yeah.
You know, Spencer, I totally expected Huschvold to be on your podium. I thought he'd maybe be a little bit higher. I mean, you do have a Credit Agricole kit, and you were always about Tour. I mean, you were so excited when he won that world championship. You know, I think he was a great rider to watch. He had all those green jerseys because he was able to kind of get over the climbs. Not 100% a pure sprinter, but man, what was he? The God of Lightning or whatever they called him, like his nickname. Pretty good pick.
God of Thunder.
God of Thunder.
Much like Thor.
So little guy.
Yeah.
Who do you got for your second place on the podium?
I guess Garzelli. I'll say Garzelli. Big Garzelli fan.
Ooh.
I'm going a lot of Italians here. I don't know, why did I like Garzelli? I don't know. Also another doper.
I think almost all of these guys are going to be dopers for me and you.
Probably. I don't know, man. I just was always. I think it was because he'd had that good moment early in his career, and then I was just always hoping for him to get back on the podium at the Giro, and he was always. You always could hope every year that he'd attack in Milan San Remo, and that would if he could attack in Milan San Remo on the Poggio, that was it. That was the season was good, and then win a stage of the Giro. I don't know. And he made funny faces. He had that goofy little bald head.
I always get him mixed up with the guy that who was the guy that could descend really well, the Falcon?
With Sabadelli? Oh, come on.
I just kind of I know they're not the same, but I always just kind of got them confused. I got to admit, after the Italians, after two Italians, they all kind of just mold together. Well, I guess Cipollini, they're kind of like the bald guys. Like there's always kind of a little Pantani thing going on. It's just a little they're climbers. Like Italian climbers never really did it much for me. So
all right. Well, who's your second?
Well, my second, also an Italian, also a doper, and the namesake for my cat, Danilo De Luca.
And you just said Italian climbers didn't really do it for you. You picked two riders. You picked the Cobra and De Luca. You don't have a thing for Italian doping climbers that maybe aim for the GC and the Giro. That's not your thing, right?
Hey. The Killer was there's something about the Killer, right? And I think it was around 2000. It was when he was on Liquid Gas, because when he won the Pro Tour title, when he won that first the 1 year it was around the 2005, and he had that white jersey, so it replaced the World Cup. And I didn't really know what the World Cup was, and then they were like, "Oh, there's this new thing," and then that guy won it. So, of course, I went out and got the pink jersey, the De Luca pink jersey. That's when we got our cat about 2 years later. Man, I just love that guy. And, little guy, he may be a climber, but he's also a champion. And there's a difference. Garzelli, maybe he won something once, but, man,
I
De
think
Luca,
the only difference is that De Luca doped more seriously in the later stages of his career, and Garzelli maybe took it down a notch.
I'm just a fan of De Luca. Are you surprised by my two steps on the podium so far, guys? Rico and De Luca?
No, I hadn't thought of De Luca in a long time. I really try to repress De Luca. De Luca, kind of like Rico, was a rider I always imagined that punching would be more fun than racing against them. But
I really don't want...
I did like the way De Luca raced. That Giro that he lost to the Silent Assassin was really exciting. If not just for watching the faces that
I think that's what it is. I mean, it was just the exciting style of racing of Rico and De Luca got me, into that style of racing.
So
and it is disappointing.
Italian climber style.
Yeah,
it's the nonstop attacks. It's just fun. I'm a little concerned that some of our listeners are just going to be so disappointed that Tim likes dopers. But I got to tell you, man, when Rico said he was going to attack and then he turns around and the Cobra face came out, it was amazing. And when
it was
De Luca would do it with those icy blue eyes, and you're like, yeah, he is the killer. Yes, he is.
It was easy to attack, and they could call their shot because they were like, I will attack here because I know how much EPO I'm going to do the night before. and I know that I can do it. Whereas it's kind of hard to call your shot when you're like a human.
I will have you guys know that Damiano Cunego is not my number one. All right,
I'm really surprised. The Piccolo Prince. But anyways, we got to hear Spencer's second.
I'm impressed. You know, Tim, I got to say I'm not surprised by your picks, but I did kind of expect you to maybe cover that history up a little bit. So I'm kind of impressed. Going for it. Going for the jugular. So number 2 on my list, and this might surprise you that he's not a little bit higher on the podium, is Mario Cipollini. He is number 2 on my list.
Sprinters.
So overrated.
Oh, okay. Just because the magic, the bottle throwing?
Because of the magic. The bottle throw, the world champion kit, hurling a bottle at a cycling official in the middle of a race. Again, Wevelgem 2003. That is magic, and that will always be my favorite cycling memory ever.
What was the classic that he crossed the gap? Was that Gent Wevelgem when he put down the hammer?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one time he attacked in his career, and it's become legend.
Bridged across, and then he cleaned it up.
Now there are some cool things with Cipollini though. I respect this, Spencer.
Yeah, he had a lot going on. He had, maybe a few marbles loose. I'm not gonna deny that, but the amount of flair that he brought to races, the amount of exposure he brought to his sponsors and to cycling and to everything, the ridiculous stuff he did was, we need characters like that to spice it up a little bit,
I really geeked out on all his skin suits, right? My favorite skin suit wasn't the exoskeleton. It wasn't the I think there's a Michelangelo David one in there probably. I don't know. The one that got me was when his very last start in the Giro, when he had the pink leotard for that nighttime prologue start, and down the pink leotard were the list of the 42 stages, the towns that he won in, down the side, and it glue in the dark. That was a skin suit. And for that, a little bit of respect, not even on my wide angle podium, but not even honorable mention, but props. I respect that. What do you think of Cipollini, little guy?
That
I don't even care a little bit for Cipollini. One, I don't care about sprinters. Two, brash Italian sprinters. It's way down my list. I don't know. It's not my thing, but whatever.
Little guy.
Well, who cares? Dude could not get over a hill.
So
he wasn't a bike. He only did bike races that were he just felt like the kind of guy that if he was a local rider, he would show up to 2 races a year. He'd throw his helmet when he didn't do well, and then he'd go home. It was just, I don't know.
All right, so now we've all done our 2, and now here's what I want to do for the start is that Spencer, you're going to go first, and before you list, both little guy and I are going to try to guess your number 1. So I'll start, and based off of your Tor Hushvold and your Cipollini, you're obviously going to go for a sprinter, maybe one with a little bit of flash, maybe not a sprinter, maybe a domestique. So with that, I'm going to say that your number 1 is George Hincapie.
I was gonna guess more of a classics rider, maybe like a Boonen or something. Oh, how I was aiming, but I don't know. If... All right.
And Spencer, you don't need to reveal yet if you don't want to. We can still try to figure out who you're going to go with.
I don't know. I don't have a really good guess. I was thinking the Boonen mold, but I've been trying to think of someone who Spencer's crazy about him. Beyond Thor, really.
Oh, there's the whole Peepo solution here.
Yeah, there's definitely people, but man, can you actually pick Peepo as your favorite rider? I mean, that is like admitting that you actually like to be sad. I'm also only listen to emo.
So who do you got, Spencer?
Well, this is really, 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 really close, and I have 2 names written down, and I have one of them crossed off, and it really came down to the last 2 minutes before we started this, and the one that's crossed off is Tom Boonen. So little guy was very, very close to getting this right. And I feel like he should still be on the list somewhere, but he's not. Because he was one of my favorite riders for years and years and years. And I loved watching him race the Paris-Roubaix and the Flanders. But he's been upset by a young upstart of almost similar kind of.
We're going to say Stybar, aren't we? We're saying Stybar.
Good looks. Stybar's also.
Oh, it's not Stybar. Oh man, I thought he was going to go cyclocross here too.
All right.
I seriously considered it. I know both of you guys are going to be disappointed with this pick, but I went with our brand new champion of the world, Peter Sagan.
Ah, gross.
You really, really have been impressed by his racing over the last couple of years, and especially this year at Tour California. It was just the passion was ridiculous. And then
did you just name drop the Tour of California enlisting your favorite bike rider since 2004? Oh my god!
Yeah,
mute.
Yeah, I know. Mute. I know you didn't watch that race, and you really should because it was amazing.
Oh, Peter! I will say, the excitement of Peter Sagan sitting on his top tube, pedaling on the descent at Richmond with 45,000 other people watching, was definitely a memory I will never forget. But definitely not number one.
No, but he's
way better.
I think he's got a chance. He's not my number one, but give it a few more years.
I sincerely believe that he is the next coming of an Eddie Merckx. He's the best thing that we've got. Better than Boonen, better than, he can win the Cipollini style races. He can win the Boonen style races, and he can win, he can be up there on mountain top finishes like at the Tour of California when he turned himself inside out.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Dude's legit. It's insane. He's a little bit corny, and he's obviously got some flaws. But as far as exciting bike racing goes, it doesn't get any better.
Not bad. And for a little guy, I'm just going to go ahead and guess you're probably going to pick some French climber, someone that's never really done anything, just kind of there. So Pierre Rolland.
Oh, Pierre Rolland, no. I'm not a big Pierre Rolland fan. I kind of find him annoying, actually.
All right,
he's a disappointment. Okay.
Tommy V is a pretty good pick. I think little guy might go more Italian though with his climbing. I think he'll go early 2000s Italian, and I'm thinking maybe Gilberto Simoni.
Oh, that would be nice. Oh God,
no,
Seiko.
Simone's
the infighting
nice.
With Cunego, that was so good. The extraterrestrial.
That's good. I gotta say, Vogler was tough, and it was hard to leave Vogler off the list because Vogler, I feel like it's almost the tie, and it's a lot of it's about the faces, but it's like a Vogler Scarponi tie, and I think I gotta go Scarponi. I think I'm more excited when Scarponi attacks. There is no moment in cycling that could ever be more exciting for me than that time Scarponi bridged in Milan San Remo.
That is Milan San Remo.
Yeah. And he brought everybody across.
My favorite. He didn't bring anybody across.
Well, but he didn't do anything when he got there.
No, he bridged by himself between the Cipressa and the Puccio.
And it was amazing. And he's a climber, and it was such a huge gap, and he bridged. And I know it's because he screwed up and he missed the move, but he bridged because he was on crazy blood bag form. And I don't know, it was just amazing.
I remember watching that with through the phone with you because we were all watching the feed.
Oh,
and you were so excited. You were like, he's bridging.
I was in peak Scarponi fandom at that time. He's obviously not quite the writer he was a few years ago anymore. He still makes good faces. Mm-hmm. But that was when I was totally geeked out on Scarponi. And then he made that jump and I couldn't believe it. And man, that was exciting.
So
anyway, Tommy V though, it is. I don't know how I'm not giving it to Tommy V. He is probably the most exciting.
This is an American podium, little guy, or this is a European podium, not an American podium.
Yeah, but I mean, on a day-to-day basis, he brings it more than Scarponi. But Scarponi, when he brings it, it's better.
All right, not a bad podium from you guys. And do you guys have guesses on who mine is?
Well, you're not picking Cunego, and that's I was gonna think maybe Cunego. Man, I don't know. Spencer,
I know
what you got?
who it is.
Yeah, who do you think?
I know who it is. He wants us to say that it's going to be Jaimar Zubeldia, but it's not. He's going to throw us a curveball and say Iban Mayo.
Yeah, Mayo's probably a good pick.
That's a good pick.
Oh man,
it's not Ivan Mayo, Spencer. Sorry, it's a close one though. Such a good thought because it was going to be a curveball, but no, I didn't get as excited when
it's
this
got to
guy
be
did it.
Tyler.
So
yeah, it's probably Tyler.
Tyler.
Guys, my
talk about
first
Tyler.
all-time favorite cyclist is Tyler Hamilton. Oh my god, you guys called it. I modeled my entire riding style after him. Dropping the
Good
shoulder.
You
Guys,
definitely got the same pain face.
Oh, Tyler was amazing. There's so much here. And then his 60 Minutes interview was amazing when he ratted on Lance. That was fantastic. His book is amazing. I still believe Tyler. If I could be his chimera twin, I would. Tyler. Every time he attacked, it was exciting because he was the anti-Lance. He was the guy willing to take a stand to Lance. Mayo was close, Cunego, and then also Floyd Landis. I had a lot of fun watching Floyd, but it wasn't as long as Tyler. And one of the very first races I ever watched was Bastogne-Liège when Tyler won, and that was the first time I learned about classics racing rather than just Tour de France. So Tyler Hamilton, my favorite, most exciting racer. And that is 3 dopers on my list. Spencer, what do you have? You have 1 doper? Yeah, 1 doper?
I have
I guess 0. I mean,
confirmed dopers.
Yeah, I guess we don't know confirmed dopers.
Seems clean. Sagan, who seems clean so far, and Cipollini was Italian, but
no, Cipollini come on. Cipollini 100% doped. And Thor has some interesting, I didn't know Lance was doping. Bullshit, Thor. That's bullshit. And then he was surprised when Lance told him he doped.
Well, we don't we're going off of confirmed. We're going off of confirmed.
Yeah, wasn't there a confirmation recently that Cipollini was like buying human growth hormone and shit the last few years of his racing?
I don't know. He's looking pretty ripped when I saw him. I think he's just working out in the gym.
I think he's on human
How many dopers you got on your list?
I am solid dopers. Solid, confirmed dopers. Everyone on my team has served a doping ban.
Yeah, this is quite the sad list of the two of us. Spencer kind of comes away squeaky clean. But definitely, those racers are some of the best that have been around since 2004 in the international scene. Kind of surprised that Stybar wasn't picked, or someone went with a cyclocross racer like Sven Nys or Ben Tournout, or some of these other good racers.
I think like Wout and the Vanderpoels, have a chance of making in there. Like, I do have to say, like, watching some of those races last year where Wout and Vanderpoel were battling, and the way Vanderpoel sort of like drags his bike around corners and just whips it around.
Yeah. That's fun.
He is really exciting to watch. He races with some flair and some strange technical choices that work really well.
Yeah.
So
I've had fun watching Teo Boss race when he was doing track racing back in the day.
The Teo Boss line. Oh man,
yeah.
The Teo Boss line.
And then
follow the Teo Boss.
And then also Marianne Voss was a lot of fun to watch, but she's kind of not been racing this year, so we'll see where she can lie. But I think pretty good list here, guys.
Solid. Pick some winners.
Yeah, I definitely had Stybar and Nice on my short list here, but they didn't make the cut. But they definitely deserve to be up there. I tried to put a cyclocross guy on there, but
guys, it's tough it's tough doing a European podium. American podiums make it so much easier when everyone is rewarded for their efforts. I mean, podiums 20 deep next time. So with that, guys, I think that was a fantastic episode. Lots to talk about in future episodes. We have a great email that we will get to maybe next episode. But with that, we want to say thank you to everyone that has subscribed, everyone that has tweeted us at the Slow Ride Pod, and the emails at the slowridepodcast@gmail.com. And we want to thank BK1 of Rhyme Series Entertainment for the intro and outro music. And above all else, the most important thing you can possibly do is wave at your fellow spandex-clad cycling nerds as they come at you. And I have to admit, I was riding last week on a trail here in Orlando, and I was maybe 1 for 20 on the wave count. But the one that I did get is that I was in the front of our little group as we're going down the trail, and I held my hand out there for a long 5-6 seconds. So that person coming the other way felt obliged to wave at me. There was no head nodding. It was like, oh. It was kind of like when you leave a high five out there for a while and someone finally gives you the high five back. So sometimes you just got to be dedicated to the cause.
It's true. I got a good wave today.
Good job there, Tim.
From a woman on like a cruiser. It was a good, solid wave too. Great she looked really surprised by the wave. I think that was good.
You know what I saw just briefly the other day at the bike race? I didn't see anybody waving, but I saw 2 Cat 4s throw their bikes into the woods in disgust. That was awesome.
Oh. And with
during
that,
the race? Nice.
And with that, we're going to talk about Category 4 cycling etiquette on next week's 80th episode of the Slow Ride Podcast.
Are we? Okay.
Be there.
Wow.
The Slow Ride Podcast. Bikes, advice, and rumors straight from the source. TheSlowRidePodcast.com and on Twitter at TheSlowRidePod.